я щойно побачила, як летить ракета. І я почула це.
Pete, how you doing, my friend?
Good. How you doing, Todd?
I'm well, man. I'm well. So we got a lot to cover, and there's been so much going on in this Ukraine situation, man. Geez, the lies continue is the way I wrote this, but where do you want to start? I have everything ready, and I've got some things I want to talk about, but I'll turn it over to you to get this going.
Yeah, maybe just a continuation of last week. We were talking about the drone, what is now being called the attack on Polish airspace.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about it because it folds into what we've been discussing in previous shows about real-time propaganda. The way to neutralize it is to say it out loud, call it out why it's happening. But the other benefit of doing that is you don't just expose the lie, you expose all the liars.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable the legs that made up lie has taken. So just to update on it, Russia has actually took it to the UN, said, hey, we want a UN investigation. We'll provide everything you need, but we want to show you that this is just completely made up situation. They're not even saying those were our, the type of drone is called a Gerbera or Gerber. It's different names. It's a styrofoam drone. It's worth about $1,000. $500 of that is for the Chinese 7-horsepower engine that powers it. It's styrofoam. It doesn't carry a warhead. It's a decoy drone, and that's what Russia uses now. One of the keys to defeating Western ADA is to use these decoy drones. So there's 5 decoys and 1 real armed warhead drone. So
Poland's being attacked by styrofoam is what you're saying.
Yeah, yep. And I don't know if you have any of the clips, but calling it out is important because first off, this is a prime example of propaganda and psychological manipulation. So
I've got one from Root. Is that the one you're talking about?
The Root one's good. Yeah, go ahead and put that on because it shows this takes us to the next step of this. So I was going to just talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's 3 basic steps in propaganda and the creation of and the spreading of. So the first is just make up a lie, and the bigger and more controversial, the better. So it's got to be something that people react to that's newsworthy. So you make up a lie, and the lie is, Polish airspace was violated by all these Russian drones. This is an international incident. Remember, they were talking Article 4, Article 5.
Yeah.
NATO. NATO amendments and whatnot. So now you've got Root, and you can show Root while I'm talking. He's just threatening. He's saying, this is the eastern flank. We're going to send all these aircraft, all these personnel, all these radars to defend it. So make up a lie. The second part is repeat that lie as often as possible. And this is where the global mainstream media comes in. And what's interesting is, I quote him all the time. Mike Benz points out that the global censorship network began in 2014 in Ukraine. And it began because this is where they figured out on a global basis, as long as they cooperate, European Western governments in general, they can control the narrative on anything. And that's what they learned in 14, 15. And they were motivated, right? Because they knew, EU and US knew, we overthrew Yanukovych. There was no Maidan organic protest. We created this protest, and now we're sending neo-Nazis on Eastern Ukraine. So they knew that, and they were motivated to cover up, and that's what they did. They just began lying, repeating the lie as often as possible, and that's where you see a lot of clips now that show 100 newscasts saying the exact same soundbite. Well, that same soundbite's happening right now with the attack on Polish airspace. So number 2 is repeat it, and that's global MSN. And number 3 is you just allow time to do its job, because of 1 and 2. Number 3 is over time, the lie becomes foundational. You know, there's a term, a colloquial term, matter of fact. And it becomes over time, you know, something that's repeated all the time becomes a matter of fact, because it's a shortcut to people's brain. They just, hey, it couldn't be a lie. It's been said 100 times. This politician talks about it. And so what's so important about phase 3 is it's foundational. Now they can pivot off of it. And this is, again, what they perfected in 14 and 15, and then immediately turned on the U.S. With Trump in 16, 17, 18. That was all byproducts of the censorship industrial complex and the color revolution. Let's pivot off the lie. And that's happening right now. Lindsey Graham, 2 days ago, came out with Blumenthal and announced a new sanction package. And the name of the sanction package is Russian drone, it responds to Russian drone invasion of Polish airspace. We've actually got senators introducing a bill based on this made-up thing, using the title, making the title of the bill this made-up incident. Also yesterday, as another example, on MSNBC, they were interviewing Marco Rubio, and the reporter came up with this gotcha question. Hey, so what then about the fact that the Russians are getting ever bolder and have now Polish airspace with their drones? Don't you know that it's just testing to see how far he can push you? And then Marco Rubio, who normally does a great job, got prepared with facts, but unfortunately Marco Rubio is suffering the same problem that President Trump is, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Just unbelievable made-up crap coming out of his advisors. And so Marco Rubio doesn't, that this is a 100% made-up BS thing. He doesn't know the fact. I told you styrofoam, $1,000, you know, no warhead, to answer it. And he wasn't even able to give a good answer, but he shouldn't have been put on the spot, because he's being put on the spot on a made-up 100% false incident that just gets propelled by the global mainstream media network and turned into something that people believe. The real danger of this, where you then see, isn't just something to laugh at, it's not just some PR communication thing, is what we're going to show with Rute. You know, the Europeans are pivoting off this lie and are moving aircraft and air defense into Poland, and, you know, Air Force soldiers, support soldiers. It's again, like, it's like going into a time machine and coming out on the deck of the Titanic, and it's flying along. If you know there's icebergs up ahead, but you're bound and gagged in a chair, you can't sit to the captain. That's what it's like right now, watching what Europe is doing, because, you know, they think they can just keep pushing the envelope on this. And the longer we go on through this craziness, this, you know, using every possible ploy to continue the war by the Europeans, the more dangerous things get. And the danger is.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, the danger is an accidental bureaucratic event just like this, someone believes something that's not true,
well,
then
it won't be
happens.
accidental. It won't be accidental. It'll be very intentional. But you mentioned bound and gagged. We're not bound and gagged here. And, you know, it also happened in Romania. And they had a drone attack in Romania, which is the Black Sea base they're building, which is for NATO to continue another front against Russia, where they just stole the election to keep that effort going. So this is a massive, just contrived war push by the Europeans. And, you know, geez, President Trump, just end it, dude. Just stop all the, you know, selling weapons, everything. I mean, it's just
that's what he doesn't. That's what I think the main thing that I would say to him if I had 5 minutes is just that these are the guys, these are the people who did everything they could to keep you out of office, who slandered you, who made things up, who conspired to you know, make sure you went to jail instead of the White House. And everything about Ukraine was created by Biden, John O'Brien, Jake Sullivan, all these same individuals who, again, conspired to send him to jail, to take his presidency away from him with impeachment. And so I wish he would too. I wish he would just end it, because again, what needs to be said all the time is the longer this drags on, the more dangerous it gets. And clearly the Europeans and the US globalists here do not understand the fire they're playing with. And we're going to reinforce that with some of the quotes from Kellogg here in a minute.
Yeah, so let's do one first. I want to play this one you sent me. This is just a quick video of the Polish citizen telling a reporter that these are Ukrainian drones, not Russian.
Yeah, good.
Karolina Pajączkowska. Co pan, bo pan był tam na miejscu, bo pan zgłosił kodeniec?
Ja to zgłosiłem to rano. No, tu o 10:07 był wybuch i mówię, pojechałem na pomidory. Mieliśmy dzisiaj od rana pomidory właśnie.
So that's in Polish, obviously, so people can't understand it, but he's essentially telling the reporter that these were not Russian drones that hit Poland.
Right. He's telling them that they're launched from right across the border. Ukrainians do it all the time, fly the same routes. It's like a training base for Ukrainian drones. So this is a Polish farmer who lives on the border, you know, telling a Polish reporter, this isn't like Russia or some ethnic Russian. He's a Pole. And that's why the polls we showed last week, POLLS, showed that the majority of Poles, POLES, believe that these drones came from Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, you can't make this up. It's so hard to believe that, you know, they make up these weak lies that have no foundation in fact, and then propel them across the globe, and then pivot off them to, you know, change policy, to change people's minds, and to change the decision-making process of freedom-loving people across the planet.
Exactly. So here's Mark Rutte, the head of NATO.
With contributions from every ally supporting these contingents, and plans in place to scale up our presence if and when required. We have air defenses, ground, sea and air-based systems. Here too, with contributions from allies across Europe and North America, working together every day to ensure.
So that's the new command they're building in Ukraine with European militaries, which have no militaries, but, you know, remnants, but they're going to go to war against Russia. It's amazing.
Right. And just the final thing on the Polish drones is he just mentioned air defense. So they scrambled F-16s on the attack of the styrofoam drones, and the F-16s fired sidewinders to take down, and we now confirmed only four styrofoam drones were knocked out of the sky, and they used sidewinders to do it. A sidewinder,
at least 5 million. I mean, that's yeah.
Yeah, 500,000 per just the shot. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a multi-million-dollar warhead. So just 500,000, that's the scaled number per against a $1,000 drone. So it's a 500 to 1 ratio. Just, a fool's errand again, showing that, what they think. They're not even thinking about what they're saying. They're not, he's talking about putting all these forces on the Polish border, and he's not even thinking about how
Well,
ineffective it is.
The Russians are laughing at this, right? I mean, they're laughing at a $500,000 whatever multi-million-dollar missile being sent against. They called it plywood, and it's and I believe that they hit a Polish house, and they at first they were like, great, we got an explosion, we can call it the Russians, and it ended up being one of the missiles that the aircraft fired against the styrofoam drone hitting the Polish house, and they had to backtrack. I mean, so the stupidity of all this is, as you said, is just off the charts, and they're not even they don't even care anymore. You're right.
Yeah. Yep. Well, next let's move on to the special envoy to Ukraine, and just you and I continue to be absolutely amazed. If you have first, I'd like the one with Zelensky saying, the best air defense weapon that we have is having Kellogg with us.
I'm sorry, I don't have that one.
Okay,
my mistake.
It's way up there, but you just show the one you have. You have it on the your Telegram queue.
All right,
it's
I must
probably
have
way
that.
up.
All right, here we go with Kellogg. I'll pull that one from Zelensky, but here we go. I got two from Kellogg. I'll play back to back.
Yeah.
We had a discussion recently in the Oval where, it goes back to what I said earlier about. I'm sorry to the ladies in here, right? But they were talking about the primacy of the Russian military and how they were, pretty good. And I said to the people in the room, we'd kick their ass, and I mean by that is, don't take their statements at face value. They're not as good as Putin says they are, and that I give great credit to the Ukrainian military, because they've taken them down a couple of notches, and so I don't think anybody should be afraid of the Russian military. It's a nuclear power. Check that block. I got that, but they don't have. I don't believe they've got the capacity that they had that they can march towards Berlin.
But then they're sitting eating their dog food, and the family sits down and gets lasagna, and they're like, what is that? And they have this sense like, actually, maybe what I'm eating is shit. Maybe they're getting the good stuff, but you don't really know. And that's why we don't feed dogs to the table, because the second you do, they're done. They're like, really? Beef eyes? I don't think so. I'm not eating that shit anymore, because they know better. And that's what Zin is. Like, the second you have it, you're like, what? Are you serious? I put that shit in my mouth. And you're mad, obviously, at the people who did it to you, but also at yourself for, like, settling for that, for settling. Because we're not actually dogs. No, we're not dogs. And, like, why would I be eating beef anus when I can eat? This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Or anywhere else. If he was winning, he'd be in Kyiv. If he was winning, he'd be west of the Dnieper River. If he was winning, he'd be on Odessa. If he was winning, he would have changed the government. Russia is, in fact, losing this war. Now, they may make movements and say, so, well, they're advancing in the Donbass region and the Donetsk. But if you consider advancing, moving by meters, not miles, well, then, okay, that's successful. But at the cost that they're having, it's enormous. And I don't think people truly appreciate it. It's a number. But the numbers they have lost, when you're talking dead and wounded, well over 1 million, they left Afghanistan after losing 18,000. We left Vietnam after losing 65,000. They've lost over 1 million dead or wounded. These numbers are World War II level numbers when you think about it. They're stunning in the loss. And this is in their first line units that they came and tried to take Kyiv with a little over four years ago. Those first line units are gone. So they've gone through a second or a third or fourth iteration of wartime commanders. They're pulling tanks out of mothballs, out of museums, to put on the battle line. They can't operate in large movements because the Ukrainians will kill them. And the Ukrainians are fighting back.
So Pete, I realized why I didn't have that other video, because it had no subtitles. But here I just made a PDF of what he said. So I can read that real quick. Hold on.
Yep, it's the first part.
He says that Russia refrains from strikes where Kellogg appears and only there. He says the Chinese should also send their representatives. Then the Russians will be afraid to strike.
Yeah, so let me just stop you. The reason I wanted you to put it up is because my source said this is a direct response to Kellogg being exposed for carrying around his personal cell phone, and the Russians having that cell phone from the very beginning, tracking him everywhere, and then knocking the piss out of any place he went, training, secret bases. And so what happened is they thought, wow, he's in trouble. They're going to bring him back. And so this Zelensky showing you how much he values having, you used the word sycophant last week, Kellogg there. And, what you just heard is a great example of that. So this was a direct, he did this twice. There's two speeches. One, he did it in front of the UN, and he said, the best ADA is Kit Kellogg. Kit is the nickname for his daughter, who runs an NGO in Ukraine, a massive logistic NGO. So Kellogg, I don't even know. I don't have words anymore. A dereliction of duty. You heard what he just said, about Russia is losing. Russia is, we'd kick their ass. Who says that? That's a child's words. And we wouldn't kick their ass. And I feel like he's got no combat experience. I do. He's been out of the military a long, long time. You and I, not as long. And we know that just like after the first few years after 9/11, the U.S. military was an incredible machine. The Russian military is an incredible machine right now, and we would be hard pressed to have parity with them across the combined arms battlefield right now. It would take time to ramp up, but no one says we'd kick their ass like that's some kind of fact. And then he just states they're losing. If they were winning, they'd be at the Dnipro. No, they would not. At the Dnipro. No, they would not be there. Again, we've covered this. It's a war of attrition, not maneuver warfare. They're not trying to maneuver around and take terrain. That happens as a byproduct of destroying the other army. And that's what Russia's doing, trying to destroy this army because it realizes it can't have a standing massive army next to it that will just continue to do what it's doing now. So it's just hard to believe what he's doing. He's, in the beginning, if our viewers didn't catch it, he said, I was in the Oval Office and, they were saying, well, Russia's got this primacy. And I said, no. And so, you never underestimate your enemy. Even, I was interviewed back in 2021 about a potential war. And I said in that interview, never underestimate Russia. And that was in 2021. Today, where they have just refined all of their technologies and especially have refined this light infantry combined arms warfare model, you better not underestimate them. Your job is to be telling the president and the other civilian counterparts in the government, hey, this is a serious, serious force, and you have to take them seriously and with respect, or you're disrespecting our people, and you're not taking seriously war itself. So, when I hear him talking, I think Joe Biden. I feel like it's like listening to Joe Biden, someone who's just, never gets out of their basement. They're set in their ways. They've got a belief system. There's no challenging that, and they just continue spewing lies and half truths to support whatever their predilection is, whatever their predicament, their prediction is. And that's what we're getting out of our special envoy to Ukraine. But as I mentioned with Rubio and Trump, it's not funny. It's not something to just shake our heads at. He is contaminating the knowledge and the facts that are being sent back to the rest of the administration. And President Trump needs to call him back and retire him as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So I have this video, and I think it's in Ukrainian, but he's saying it turned out that the U.S. has an air defense system more powerful than the Patriot. It's General Kellogg. I'm ready to grant Kellogg citizenship if Russia stops firing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's in Ukraine. So that's what he said. Anyway, so Trump came out this morning and said, I think just now, right before we came on the air, that Zelensky is going to have to make a deal, which I find encouraging.
Yep.
And I'm of the, you're more generous toward Keith Kellogg than I am. I see all because I see this more on different jurisdictions. They're all actors. They've all been hired to play a part. They know what's going on. They know they're lying, and it's intentional. And I think, from Zelensky to Starmer to Merge to Biden, to all of them, even Obama. I mean, this has been an ongoing takedown using theater to destroy our republic, and that's what they're trying to do with this war. That's the end goal, is to wipe us dry and take power in Europe and defeat and bleed our military dry. I mean, that to me is just very obvious.
Yeah.
I've got several other things. This one is the UK to lead headquarters of multinational force. I have a source in Ukraine who's been telling me for a long time that it's the Admiralty in the UK that's behind most of this. That team seems to justify that. We have Durov coming out and saying this attack on Charlie Kirk is an attack on free speech. And remember,
he's under house arrest in France, who lured him to France in order to get him to give the code so they could spy on people using Telegram in France.
Exactly. And then this one you sent me, which is the Russians are using tunnels, which you talk about innovation and seriousness. They're going behind the Ukrainian lines repeatedly, using underground tunnels and sewers and all kind of stuff.
Yeah, what they've taken to a new level is, so the tunnels behind them, they clear them out, they clean them, they lay down tracks for little mini cars, and then they use those as their logistic network. So remember, being a logistician has never been more dangerous than this war, because you're driving in usually a pickup, small, cheap vehicles is what they use now to get food, to get bullets, to get medical supplies forward, and that is the riskiest job on the battlefield. But now the Russians, everything behind them, they use the pipe network behind them and in front of them. Behind them for logistics, in front of them they probe them. If they're unguarded, they're using them. And in Kherson, they're coming up again behind the Ukrainians. And of course, Ukrainian, competent officers are saying, don't we learn any lessons? But it's another reflection of what we've talked about. They don't, because they're a big bureaucratic top-down machine that doesn't have time for learning lessons. And this is catching up with them. They're losing a lot of terrain right now. The big breakthrough, the fall, the collapse has never been closer than it is right now.
And that's why you're seeing all this desperation with the styrofoam drones that are going to destroy Poland.
Exactly.
So, and I just hope Trump sees through this. And that's why we're saying this over and over again every week. as loudly as we can and distributing it everywhere we can so that the White House gets this. You sent me one more video. I'll just play it. It's the drone strike on the guy on the motorcycle.
Yeah, that's a good way to close.
So that's just a face
Yeah,
of war.
I like that because it shows exactly face of war, that it's better to be lucky than good, and that every combat veteran knows that most of the reason they're there, we make good decisions, but luck has got to be on your side, because totally. that guy had nothing to do with that drone. He was just riding where he was supposed to be riding, but it missed him, and he lived to fight another day. So the war is real. To sum up everything we're talking about, again, the bizarre obstinance of the EU. The EU, think about this. The EU has yet to put together a peace plan, some kind of straw man peace proposal. They've yet to put anything or even discuss anything like that. All they do is come up with go to war preparation. And Mark Rutte is the head of NATO, and we saw the clip earlier of him talking about building up the eastern flank of Europe to protect against the invasion of the Russians, which, again, to point out the irony of this whole thing, who Kellogg says, aren't worthy of any first world military. We'd kick their ass. So why are we worried about them? Why is Europe worried if they're so easy to, kick their asses?
Well, that's the cognitive dissonance there. The narrative doesn't make sense. Okay, first of all, Russia's going to take over Europe, so we have to, move all the troops, and Russia's the big threat. But then the exact opposite is they can't do anything. Kellogg's sitting there saying the Russian military sucks. So which one is it? Is it good?
He told the president that. Yeah, he told the president that.
Yeah.
So they don't. That's the problem with liars. They can't keep track of their lies, and they always inevitably trip themselves up because reality continues to come back and knock the legs out of whatever the lie is that they're promulgating, and that's what's going on with him. But we showed the thing back to the drone almost hitting the guy on the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
That's every day. Guys are dying every day. And right now, by the way, Ukraine's losing 9,000 soldiers a week. So they're up to 36,000 a month the last 2 months.
You can't sustain that, dude.
No, you can't. Nobody can. But, this is a horrific war, more violent and more destructive than World War II. Yet Starmer, Macron, Merz, none of Rutte, van der Leyen, none of them have relatives who are coming home without limbs or who aren't coming home. None of them have a parent or grandparent's hometown that's now flattened and there is nothing left of it. No one in Europe is experiencing war. They're just living in their la-la land at UN headquarters, EU headquarters, and they are not experiencing war. But the war is real, it's horrific, and it goes on. And that's what, why I wanted to close with that, because that's why it's so important to get this straight and to end it as soon as possible.
Well, you saying that just makes me sick. I mean, this is depopulation, dude. I mean, they want a bigger war in Europe to depopulate Christian Western civilization. That's the only thing I can come to at the end of the day. Why else would you drive for a nuclear war with Russia? It's just freaking insanity. There's one more thing I wanted to throw up. This is the Kremlin says that NATO is in a de facto war with Russia. I mean, and there's no proof needed. I mean, after the Poland issue. So I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Right. So
and then we need to say it out loud, because Russia has every right. We've been saying this for many, many months. Wiesbaden it has been from 2022 forward a target that by all laws of warfare could have been hit and no one should have protested one bit. That's the command and control center that is in charge of killing Russians.
That Cavoli was running, right?
Exactly. And so same thing in Kyiv, but Russia's showing great restraint here, and yet the fact is NATO is at war with Russia, and it should be. I should take that back. The EU is at war with Russia. NATO's not. Trump's made it clear he's not going to war. He's not putting boots on the ground, which is the only redeeming thing that's happened. Yes. Yes.
Wow, Pete, thank you, man. We'll be back next week. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about.
Yep. Sounds good, Todd.
Thank you. Cheers.